So welcome everyone who's just joining us. Thanks for being here. We're just gonna, as people are coming into the session, feel free to play around with the annotation tool here in Zoom. You should be able to see some options to add maybe some colors or some patterns to this image of a forest. We thought forest is a nice option for communities. I don't know if any of you have seen this lovely video about being connected at the roots and how trees talk to each other and exchange knowledge and resources under our feet. So yeah, just as we, as colleagues join us, feel free to, get creative and start annotating. And let us know if you're having any issues with the tool. You should be able to just pick up your mouse and add some squiggles or whatever suits.
For people ready for great things.
And we'll get started
to inspire hearts within their community, and prosperity for themselves, families, their communities.
Welcome if you're just joining us. Great that you can be here. We're just using the annotation tool to co-create this little forest here. Forest as a metaphor for creating community together. And we'll get started in a moment. I'm seeing some little squiggles, which is great.
Ruth, just to note, I think several people are logging in still with the link that names them after yourself.
Okay.
So there, I see at least 3 Ruth Blackshaws here.
I don't know how this has happened, but there we go. Technology is always full of some surprises.
We learned something today as well.
Exactly. So welcome everyone who's just joined us. I'm going to stop sharing the screen here and get started with the session itself. So thank you for being here. My name's Ruth, and I'm going to be hosting our time together today. I'm really excited to be joined by colleagues who you'll be hearing from shortly. Sabrina and Timon, also Zsuzsa and Ozzy and Fabian will be joining us in a bit. If you do have the possibility to put your camera on, I know it doesn't suit everyone, depending where you are, what's going on, but it's always lovely to see faces. So please do if that's a possibility for you. And for those of you who've logged in as Ruth, I'm not sure what's happened with the invitation. We've had a technical glitch, so feel free to rename you with your real name. I feel like I've been multiplied, which is an interesting feeling. Yes. So for those of you who haven't met me, I'm Ruth, and I'm leading the innovation culture community over at the UN Innovation Network. And yeah, a few weeks ago, we published the Cultivating UN Innovation Communities guide, key questions and considerations. And Sabrina, who's with us, was the sort of lead author and researcher behind that. So we'll be hearing from her in a moment. So yeah, today we're hosting this event to kind of explore this resource together and to unpack themes around kind of communities creating impact in the UN and beyond in times of change, which we are in. And I just wanted to say this conversation feels really important for me in this moment. I think, as Sabrina will share, many internal UN communities have been established in the UN system in recent years, which I think is a great thing. And there's a lot of momentum around those in the context of UN 2.0, which some of you may be familiar with, and the various communities under that umbrella around digital, innovation, foresight, behavioral science, data and culture. But there's also many specific innovation communities within UN organizations, and also on different themes like knowledge management. And I think we also all know that it's challenging times for the UN system at this moment. And I think we need to kind of collaborate more than ever rather than competing and dividing among us. And I think, yeah, certainly for me in the last decade or so in the UN system, I've seen again and again how communities can create resilience and help us to pool our knowledge and our resources and create much more impact than we could ever do alone. And also help us do our jobs better, get information, skills, capacities that we need to innovate and think creatively, and also to kind of incubate new ways of doing things that might not be possible elsewhere. So in that context, happy to have this session today, and just to kind of orient everyone in terms of what we'll do in the session. So we'll start with a check-in, which we always do in our innovation culture events and gatherings. Then we'll do a quick recap on the guide and what's in there from Sabrina. And then we'll have the opportunity to dig deeper into one of the innovation communities that's featured. And so we're really excited that Zhuja and Azi are here from the UNHCR Innovation Alumni Network. We'll take a moment to digest these inputs in some small groups, and also, you know, in the spirit of creating community here as well, hopefully meet some new faces. And then we'll come back together for an informal conversation around a fire. So you'll be seeing a fire in this virtual environment later on in the session, which will be together with Fabian and also Juja and Nazi. So we'll get to meet them even more later on. So first of all, a check-in. So we'll do a chatterfall, which if you haven't done that, it's basically like a waterfall, but in the chat function. So if everyone can open the chat in your computer. And basically we have just 3 easy questions. So your name, where you're calling in from, and one word that comes to mind when you think of communities that you're part of. And we're all part of communities in different forms, whether that's in our organizations, in our families, in our homes. Yeah, one word that comes to mind. And if you can hold off sending just for a moment and give a thumbs up, then we can all send it together once we've had a moment to reflect. And I'm just going to post those questions in the chat as well, so you have them. So yeah, take a moment to add that. Seeing a few thumbs pop up. Nice. All right. Okay, so after 3, let's all click send. So 1, 2, 3, click enter. All right. I'm seeing colleagues coming in from Canada, belonging, inspiration, Spain, collaboration, impact. Some have also directly messaged me, so I'll try to share some of those. Exchange coming up. I'm seeing support. I'm seeing engagement, belonging, care, support, care, people stronger together, support, generosity, belonging, connection. Okay, definitely some themes here. Thanks everybody for sharing that to get us started. And now I'm really happy to give the floor to Sabrina. Sabrina has been a wonderful colleague over at the UN Innovation Network with us, and like I said, led on the development of this guide. She's recently been at USAID, where she was also forming communities. So Sabrina, over to you to share some insights from this guide.
Thanks so much, Ruth. And thank you for everyone. I'm really, really thrilled to be joining you all today from sunny Washington, D.C. So hoping you get some of that springtime joy where you all are. It's great to introduce the new Cultivating UN Innovation Communities Guide, Key Questions and Considerations. Like Ruth said, I wanted to share a brief overview and some highlights before we dive into a deeper conversation and hear from the experts themselves. So excited to have you all here today. So before we jump into the guide itself, I thought it would be helpful to give a quick overview of its inspiration, which has been really the growth of innovation communities across the UN, as Ruth said. 53% of UN entities now feature communities, which reflects the growing awareness of their impact. Communities are powerful enablers of innovation, skill, and capacity development, and are key to supporting UN 2.0, as Ruth said, and of course the SDGs. So when it comes to communities, the how is an essential part of it because it represents an awareness that if our goal is to meet the challenges of our current time, advance the SDGs, and scale up to be ready for whatever the future has in hold, we can't expect innovation and change to happen on their own. We have to do it together. And that's how we support UN 2.0 and share the wisdom from the people who are already creating change today, right now in the UN system. So community and innovation can mean everything and nothing at the same time. And if 53% of UN communities, or sorry, UN entities now feature communities, like what do they look like? What does that make up? So when we think of this guide, communities can mean anything from a small group of people to a huge network with thousands of people connected digitally from across the world. And specifically, also for in the context of the guide, I wanted to share that the term innovation is used to signal a recognition of doing things differently and including innovation as a core value of the group of people and the change they are seeking. So when I got to do this project, probably the best part of it was the incredible people I got to speak with to get their insights and wisdom, as well as be exposed to their communities and the work they were doing. The guide features 11 UN innovation community leaders and spotlights their communities, as well as 2 external innovation community experts. And one note is, although I spoke to 13 people, I could have spoken to probably 3 times as many, and there would be still so many insights and lots of wisdom that I would have loved to have shared. These range from UNHCR, we're going to hear from JUSA, to WFP Innovation Champions, to, of course, the Young UN Network. Each community offers a different model and a set of insights, really showing that there's no one-size-fits-all approach, but plenty of shared lessons that we can learn from each other and apply moving forward. So going into the conversations, we had 3 main goals. We wanted to spotlight the amazing work currently happening across UN innovation communities, provide an overview of key UN innovation community information, how-tos, what to consider, and share practical ideas and practical solutions from current UN community leaders. Using those 3 goals as the broader structure and outline, oh, sorry, skipped ahead one. There we go. I wanted to give you a peek inside the report first. Using those 3 goals as the broader questions and outline, different themes and questions emerged from my conversations, such as the importance of establishing a community culture and recruitment to addressing challenges and engagement differences. Within those themes, key questions emerged, such as simply like, what tech should you use? How do you engage different types of community members? Looking at the themes and questions, I thought it would be helpful to highlight 2 particularly salient areas, especially in our current moment, before we dive into deeper case studies. So looking at our current time, the thing that keeps coming up, especially with UN innovation communities, is being able to show impact. Even when I was conducting the interviews last year, this theme of being able to show your community's impact kept emerging. And now more than ever, being ready to advocate for a community and show it's working is essential. A major takeaway to grow or sustain a UN innovation community is demonstrating value. This means tracking both qualitative and quantitative data, such as member numbers, event attendance, retention rates, as well as qualitative feedback like community chat insights and testimonials. A great tip that I wanted to share was to make sure you include a baseline survey during sign up for any innovation community, as well as when you might be recruiting new members. This helps establish a foundation to be able to share growth and advocate for your community in the future. The other theme I wanted to highlight today before a deeper conversation and to set the stage is it's really important to make sure your community is providing value for its members. This can mean advocating for members' needs, sharing their work and achievements across different platforms and newsletters, and creating human connections in small groups or one-on-one conversation. It's essential to build a culture of trust and transparency. And especially, I loved this quote from one of our community leaders, was to be a warrior for your community. I think this is really important, especially now with the awareness that unengaged communities risk becoming extractive. So it's important to focus on designing experiences that keep members connected, motivated, and provide real value and connection to tangible change and impact in their broader work and entities. So in the spirit of getting the little ones out there, I just wanted to thank you all for coming today and encourage you to check out the guide and get more info on the questions, considerations, and insights from our innovation leaders, and especially sign up to be a part of UNIN and the UNIN Culture Group too. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Sabrina. Thank you for sharing with us and for all the work and care that went into creating this, which I think we all deeply appreciate. So now we have, as discussed, Zhuzha and Azi with us, who are leading the work over at UNHCR, the Innovation Alumni Network. And I think Zhuzha is going to kick us off with, this is a little bit of a, a zoom in, a case to look at one of these communities in a bit more detail. What do they look like? What's going on? What are some of the things that you're thinking about over there? So we'll hear from you for a little bit, and then we will have some little discussions in breakouts and then come back for the fireside, as mentioned before. So Zhuzha, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Hi, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure to be in this process with you, Sabrina. Congrats again on the guide, and the whole process was really lovely to be in. So as Ruth said, we're going to do a little bit of a dive into our community. We consider this maybe a case study. We, at the UNHCR Innovation Service, we have a learning team, which is Azi and I. And we have several programs, including a larger fellowship and some experimental projects. But one of our programs right now that we're running really happily is the Alumni Network. So I'll share my screen. Just give me 1 second, please. I don't see any thumbs up or anything. So if you can please, maybe Ruth, unmute yourself and let me know if you can see my screen.
We see it. It's great.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we have an alumni network, which is what it sounds like. It's an alumni network for those who have participated in innovation learning initiatives across the past 10 or so years since the inception of the Innovation Fellowship Program in UNHCR. It's a virtual community where we nurture innovation. It's a place where we collaborate, where we share our experiences. We try to share not just positive experiences, but the struggles, the challenges that we face in our innovation practice and in our work related to innovation. It's a place where our colleagues can network and continue learning. It's a place where we build capacity at the end of the day for UNHCR's workforce to respond to the complex challenges that they face in their everyday work. We started in 2021. We started based off a needs analysis. So I think that's important to say that we didn't just start because we thought it was a great idea to have an alumni network. We actually started because a need arose for some sort of a community. And I actually was brought into the innovation service as a consultant to do that needs assessment. So after speaking to a large number of people who had participated in innovation service-led programs, the conclusion was that people who had gone through an innovation training or a practical program of innovation. They want to connect with each other and they want to share with each other and they want to continue learning together. So we started the alumni community where we have regular innovation hour events. That's what we call regular sharing and skill building events. We have a newsletter. We have new initiatives such as co-leadership projects where members of the community can actually become co-leads of the network and bring their own perspectives and ideas and try them out in the space and have that ownership over the alumni network. We host workshops and networking events, and we have also gone beyond the membership of the alumni network to have cross-community collaborations with other innovation communities within UNHCR and across the UN, other bringing together members of our alumni network and members of other UN innovation communities. We've had quite a few successes, I would say, even though it was a slow start, and that's something that I'm sure resonates with a lot of community leaders, that it can be difficult to find your community rhythm, but it is very important and it's fantastic when it comes together. Last year alone, we had 720 attendances at our 24 different events. And even though our community is only 220 people, a lot of those who attended were from these other communities as well. So you can really see the cross-fertilization of ideas is starting to become a very regular thing in our networking. We have 4 co-leads right now, and Ozzy can speak to those a little bit more. And I will hand it over to him saying we have a lot of successes, but we have a lot of questions and we have a lot of things that we're always testing out. And Ruth and myself and many other community leaders have been getting together quite regularly to discuss these challenges because there's always something to learn, always something to work out, and it's a wonderful thing to be a part of. So I'll hand it over to you, Ozzy, for a few more notes on our alumni network.
Thanks, Joji. Yeah, so currently community covers most of the regions, and the members of the community are coming from with various backgrounds from different locations and regions, and therefore whenever we organize innovation hour presentations, we try to cover different time zones. So it was one of the success stories for us to how to engage more people. So we host usually the same session in the morning CET time, and then the same session afternoon. And with that, we make sure that we cover as many as people as we can. And while we have a lot of community members, it was also important for us to have a community empowerment initiative. And one of these initiatives is the co-leadership initiative, where we invite the members from the community to take an active role in designing and planning the community activities. It's a quarter-based initiative, and we've seen that it is a great success because when community members have this leadership experience and role, they really ignite and they can contribute to the community with more passion. And here are some examples of the events that we had last year. These are our innovation hour sessions, and usually we give the spotlight opportunity to the members of the community to share about their innovative projects that they are working on. Sometimes it can be even not a project, but just an idea if they want to get some feedback from the community or some solutions. And these are the topics like building user-centric AI systems, algorithmic unfairness, or the partnerships. And we also host informal events where we invite our members of the community to just get together and get to know each other better. And that's it. Back to you, Zhuzhi. I think you're on mute, Zhuzhi.
Usually we're still not hearing you, but
I believe someone unmuted me
Yes.
at some point and I couldn't see the mute button anywhere. Sorry, because I was presenting.
No
We will share
worries.
these slides so that you can see our contact details and we can also put them in the chat. We're happy to continue these conversations around communities of practice, communities of interest, our strategies, our approaches, the things that have worked for us, the things that haven't worked for us, the things that we're trying to do now. And I would maybe just say that we are very open for the upcoming conversation, and we have much more than the events in and of themselves. And there's a lot of things to discuss. So back to you, Ruth. We're really looking forward to having that fireside chat.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Zhuzha and Ozzy. Fantastic to have you both here. And just spotlighting Ozzy for a second in case you didn't see him when they were slide sharing. Hey, great. So yeah, as promised, we will take a moment in the breakouts, just to digest. So if we were in kind of, I always like to think if we were in a physical room together, you might say, kind of turn to your neighbor and quickly share some reflections, what came up as you were listening, etc. So there's a couple of questions in the chat. So maybe there's something that came up from what was just shared by Sabrina and by Zhuzha and Ozzy. Maybe you want to exchange on some of the questions I just shared, which is, what does community mean to you? When have you been part of a community that was thriving, and what did it feel like? And also maybe what roles can UN communities play in this moment? So we won't get through all these questions, but maybe if one speaks to you, then share some reflections on that. And I also just wanted to shout out, I see quite a lot of colleagues from different communities, from the WFP, Innovation Champions, New Work, Young UN, the Scaling Group, who are in the room as well. So thank you all for the contributions. And yeah, I will open the breakouts. You will be automatically assigned, and we'll have around 6-7 minutes for this. All right.
And to say the same things in different words is like, how do we create environments where we feel safe enough to change? How do we create environments where we feel like we can try out these different futures? And I think that environments where we are in deep relationship with each other, where we feel safer, where we feel some sense of trust and belonging, are beautiful environments to try on a new set of clothes, so to speak, to try on, a different environment. And what that means is, like, maybe we try different values. I think many years ago, Casper Turquile, he's a beautiful community weaver in the US, and he told me, one of the most magical things about communities is that they can choose to embody different values than the norm. And I think that's the magic, that we can choose to embody, and we can choose to create environments of generosity. We can choose to create environments of solidarity, of creativity, whatever it is that we choose to. And I think that's how these different futures become possible, by creating little islands, little bubbles of this different future where we get to practice it. And then I think that's at least the idea, is that we become then more likely to carry that out into the rest of the organization. And maybe many of these islands at some point, connect, and find a certain field of resonance. And I think resonance is also an interesting word, because I think, I still have very mechanical metaphors in my mind of like how change happens, I know. But resonance, like values can resonate across. And I think, like, but where does the drop in the water start from? Where does the resonance start from? And I think it's in these communities of care, communities of practice, communities of solidarity. And so I think I'll stop there. Just me saying that I'm just a big fan of all the people who are doing this work, and that I see a big opportunity. Maybe with that, I'll pass it on. I would love to hear what other people are saying and how it resonates for them.
Thanks, Fabian. Yeah, I love that. This idea of resonating, the values resonating across, and these little bubbles. Yeah, Zsuzsa, Ozzy, do you want to share what's coming up for you and what you've seen also through UNHCR in terms of yeah, what communities can create, what possibilities they can create, what people find in them. Yeah, how do you see that?
Unless you want to go, Ozzy, I can start. So for those of you who were here for the short presentation we did on our community, you'll note that our community is a closed one. And so it has its limitations and its specificities in terms of membership. But one of the things that we've been seeing is interest from beyond that network. And so we're actually working on ways to collaborate with the alumni network and others who are interested, and also in trying to figure out other ways of connecting across the organization. I mean, there's so much about the community space and what it can give to people. I would say just from the feedback we have from members, and not just from the alumni network, but maybe the whole fellowship process that our participants mostly go through to arrive to the alumni network, these spaces really give them an opportunity to have support that they don't necessarily have where they are or in their team. Some people have found profound community support for issues that they might be facing in their private lives. They have found a group of like-minded individuals who are equally as motivated as themselves to put the work in. And it's been a place where people can not just vent their frustrations, but really share solutions to the challenges that they have. And so I think it really is a great place for the members to work together in ways that are not necessarily constricted or scripted, but ways where it's conversational, and it's very open and a trusting space to have these conversations. You saw some of the topics we've had in our events. I would also add to that that we do have events not just on AI and tech and digital. We have a lot of different topics across the year, and we have a lot of meetings and discussions on process-related issues or challenges that are really maybe even personal to people when it comes to their innovation processes and journeys. So to have that sort of a trust from a community, I think is really special. And we have had events where, for example, the presenters have asked us to monitor who's in the room, make sure that it's invite only, make sure we don't record, make sure that we have that trusting space, because we were talking about very sensitive topics such as getting buy-in from managers, which can be very hard and very dependent on someone's specific context. So it has become really a place of trust, and I think that's really wonderful to see. Back to you, Ruth or Ozzy, if you'd like to add something.
Yeah, I would just add one more thing that lots of community members highlighted that they like the psychological safety while being in the community, being member of the community, because often piloting some new innovative ideas or projects can be a lonely experience because it's like a long journey, and the community gives this kind of space where the members can connect with their peer members, peer fellows from different parts of the world, and exchange ideas and look for solutions together. And I really like that because we started to host small innovation coffee sessions in the end of last year. And we tried to have some personal connection with the community members, and we had a lot of great chats. And that's one of the ways how we could also reach deeper within the community and understand the needs of the community. So this kind of live interaction and feedback with the community members was very helpful in shaping the activities for the alumni network. Back to you, Ruth.
Thanks, Ozzy. And we'd love to hear, Sabrina, if you have some other thoughts also from the interviews and your own experiences. And just also to say, I put it in the chat, but I know we have many of you in the room who are working in communities and have thoughts on this as well. So if anyone wants to also come into this space around the fire, a bit like a fishbowl, please feel free to put your hand up and we can bring you directly in as well. Over to you, Sabrina.
Thanks so much, Ruth. And I just all these light bulb moments going off, hearing everyone speak. I think the idea of values resonating both within communities and beyond them is something that I find really impactful right now and relates to something that came up quite a lot in my interviews was the importance of communities and challenging assumptions of the way we show up and the way we be, and practicing, like Fabienne said, the future that we would like to experience now in these spaces. Which I think also was a big piece of my research when it came to trust in creating spaces where people can show up as themselves, like Suja and Azzy said, that they might not be able to in everyday work, but how that impacts their work and enables them to grow both professionally and personally. And I think one of the keys that came through in the interviews to support that was being really transparent with community members. Like Azzy said, like, we're not going to record this meeting. This is just for us to really support that foundational level of connection beyond having to show up in a professional way that we're all very good at, but doesn't necessarily lead to the outcomes that we need to create the type of change for our current reality and future challenges.
Thanks, Sabrina. I'm not seeing any hand. Oh, I am seeing a hand. Yes, Dia or Daya. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Please, do you want to come in? Yes.
Hello, thank you, Ruth. You were right the first time, it's Dia.
Dia, okay, great. Great to have you here.
Yes,
Do you want to
thank you.
introduce yourself as well whilst you come into the fire?
Yeah, so I'm, thanks, Sabrina. I'm interning at the ILO currently, and I'm working to integrate behavioral science into ILO's work. And the reason I'm I think I mainly had a big question about trying to bring together a community. So I understand that one way to do that is like based on the UNHCR, the short presentation you did, that it's already a network of alumni that you then invite to participate in a community. So it's almost like they've had a shared experience and then they get together and continue certain practices and rituals. But how would you, based on the varied experiences that people have here, bring together that initial core group? Like, what's some strategies that work to take that first initial step?
Thanks, Dia, for this question. And it's a very nice one, because the one in my mind before you came in was, where should people make a start if they're thinking about starting a community? And communities can take many forms and sizes, right? It could just be a few colleagues or friends. I shared in a group with Fabian recently a 5-person mini community I'm part of, which has been hugely resourceful and inspiring for years, actually. Anyway, who wants to come in on this question? Just unmic. Unmute, sorry, I always say unmic. Fabian, yeah, over to you.
Yeah, I can try first. Would love to hear how everyone else. Yeah, beautiful question, Dia. I think if you don't have a big shared experience that people went through, like how do you get the group going? First, I think starting where Ruth was mentioning is, I think people overestimate how many people you need to start with a group. I don't think you need that many people. I think it just needs a few people that really resonate with your invitation. And I think that's the second part, like having a really clear invitation of what the intention is, what the purpose is, why we are coming together. And that can be maybe you have a lot of clarity and say, this is what it is, or maybe you don't, you're exploring, and then that can be co-created with a small group of people, which has the added bonus of creating more buy-in from a core group of people. But my sense is like, if you have 5 to 7 people who are just really bought in at the beginning, that can be enough to really start. And then the other thing I would mention is rhythm and consistency. If you do not have a shared experience, you just have to figure out what is a healthy rhythm that we can sustain for quite a while, and then just stick with it. Because yeah, it just takes a while for people to really get to know each other, come into conversation, see, is this just a short-term thing? Or is this really something that is worthwhile my time and to invest into it? And I think a lot of communities start with a bang, but then like fizzle out. And what I found is like a better way to start is actually start small, but to build really like consistently. Yeah, maybe that is a starting point. I would love to hear what the others are thinking.
I can have a go. So as I mentioned, we did a needs assessment in the beginning, and yes, our alumni network is a very specific type of community. But when we started, it was very unclear. The ask was basically to see if there is a need for a community of practice across UNHCR for innovation, and that is so broad. And that came down to being an alumni network. I think a book that helped me a lot. I don't know if I can. Nope. Sorry.
Put it beside
I'll
your
send you.
face, Juja, if you hold it at your face. Yeah. Oh, almost. Never
Nope.
mind. Didn't work. Oh, there we go. Yeah, perfect.
That's completely unhelpful. I'll link it. It's Building Successful Communities of Practice by Emily Weber. I liked it because it was very to the point. It's very quick and easy to understand, and it just helped structure our thinking. Um, and sometimes needs arise completely from within the group. So, for example, alumni now are asking if we can have a LinkedIn group as well. So we're going to be testing that out. And I think for us, what helped in the beginning was that buy-in from the few people who were very engaged. And as it was said here, consistency and rhythm. So we had times when there was a very big attendance for sessions, then it sort of quieted down. We had a bit of a more quiet time with our events where less people would attend, but they would be very engaged. And then now we have quite a good level of consistency with how our weeks and months are organized in the alumni network. And Ozzy has been a huge part of making that rhythm be very stable and, for lack of a better word, consistent. And I think those were key.
Thank you, Juja. And I know we're getting close to our time. We have 4 minutes left in the session. But just a couple of things to mention. We've also got some questions in the chat about cultivating trust, especially in online sessions, and also some M&E. I see there's been a bit of discussion, which is great. Obsession with numbers. So yeah, if I think we can do a quick final round, and if you want to also touch on any of these points, would be great. I can start us off maybe just to say that also on consistency, I think also maybe to think about like can also have seasons, right, within a community, that like there's seasons of, more intensity and seasons of less intensity, or but if that's kind of communicated, that's one thing. And the trust online part, I think something I've found works really well is yeah, check-ins, just to get people to kind of connect on a human level, and also doing things that feel maybe a bit goofy, for want of a better way to summarize it. But things that put people slightly out, like maybe using paper, or like getting people to pick up an object and talk to it, or things like this that are maybe a little bit out of the usual, but can help you connect more like as a human. Yeah, let's do a quick last round, and then we have a checkout question around a takeaway from today's session, which you can start thinking about. Who's gonna kick us off? Zhuzha, yes, a final word.
I think for us, trust is one and worked on consistently. It's about the personal touch. It's about being available. It's about us giving that care and time to the members. And it's about focusing on anytime we have a presenter or someone who comes to us with an idea that they want to do, is where we see ourselves as enablers of that person's ambitions or ideas. And we want to help them make that session or that workshop or whatever they're leading be one that is to their needs and likes and goals. So if they're, for us, always the presenters are the ones who get to decide if it's being recorded, who's being invited, if it's anyone outside of the alumni network. We provide any and all support that they need, or just the bare basics of the structure that's there. So I would say that flexibility and being there as humans, as people, putting in that care is what creates for us that real sense of community and that safe space.
I can just jump in quickly and say that there has to be a second session that features Zhuzha and her cat story and creating community at UNHCR. That was one of the highlights of my interviews, but I will save that for next time. And just with the takeaway that I heard across this conversation and speaking with all the innovation leaders last year is the importance of seeking member input, supporting them, being consistent, and also being mindful of fatigue. And like Ruth said, that there are seasons and people will often come back, and supporting them both to take a step back and then to come and rejoin the community with full force.
Thanks, Sabrina. Fabian, Ozzy, you want to close us out?
No, I only have just gratitude. I love the work that you all are doing, and Susan, I loved just the examples that you were giving. It's so beautiful, and all I can say is just that I just wish you all strength, and I just so believe in the work that you all guys are doing, and I just I don't know, that's how I'm leaving, and I just feel really, really grateful that you all are doing this work. I think it really matters. I think it really matters at this time. So yeah, thanks for doing it so beautifully. And thanks, Ruth, for always convening and connecting.
Thank you, Fabian. It's great to have you here and great to have all of you here. Ozzy, do you want to share one last word or?
Yeah, last sharing. I think last year I was checking the active participants of our community events, and I was like, okay, why these people keep coming back to our events, you know? And it was like the same pattern, same group of people. And it was really interesting to get back to them. And turns out there's always some little core of active participants, and I was trying to reach out to them more and have established some personal connection. And it was like a domino effect, you know. Then they reach out to others, and then the community becomes more like it starts to spread. I mean, around, and then. Yeah, I think starting with the active members or the ones that are interested in the community always helps. So yeah, that's my
Thank you
last
so
checkout
much,
words. And thanks, Ruth,
Ozzy.
for organizing this.
I love it. So thank you, everyone, bringing everyone back into the same space here. Thank you for being here. I know we're a couple of minutes over. Yeah, inviting if anyone wants to share something in the chat that you're taking away. I've seen a few things already come through. There's also all the resources in the link there, including how to be part of the innovation culture community, the guide, obviously, also Fabian's beautiful community weaving framework. So definitely check out those links. Thank you for being here. And also one thing I really like as a little ritual is to invite everyone to unmute at the end. So if you want to unmute and just say goodbye, then we hear each other's voices at least. So thank you, everyone, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks so much,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Have a
Bye.
good
Take
day.
care.
Bye.
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 Thanks. Bye.